Hello everyone, nice to see you again, and in this lesson we are working on your English grammar, specifically on how to use English articles. Now I know this is the lesson that everyone needs to watch. So there are three English articles: er, an, and the. It is possible to have no article as well, and for example using one or another, and this usage changes the meaning of the English sentences completely. But more on that later. Articles are a challenging part of speaking English, but they are really important. They give information about the noun and come before them. Using articles incorrectly can make your sentences confusing or even sound strange. And mistakes with articles are obvious to native speakers. They probably won't correct you, but they will notice them for sure. Even though you will probably be understood if you make mistakes with articles. Using the incorrect article is the most common errors that English learners make. These mistakes happen all the time, but there is a reason why, and we are going to talk about it today. There are lots of different rules about how to use articles, and on the other hand, lots of different exceptions as well. But now I'm going to teach you some, but not every rule, you know. Because I don't want to scare you away and you never come back. So that's why I've decided to share this lesson down into three main rules. We are going to talk about definite article the and indefinite article a or an. Remember that articles are used only with English nouns. Remember, nouns play an important role in your decision to use an article. The type of noun is important as well. So, there are two types of articles in English, definite and indefinite. And it's probably easier for me to show you how they work. This table will help to make it a little easier. Thinking about English nouns, we know that there are countable and uncountable nouns. Countable nouns can be singular and plural. So there's a lot to think about, and it really affects how you use the articles. If a noun is singular and countable, then you can use the indefinite article er or an. The definite article the can be used both with countables or uncountables. When a noun is plural, so then there is more than one of that noun, you see? The definite article the can be used. And though we can't use the indefinite singular articles a or an when we talk about plural nouns, so we can use some instead. You know, some is not technically an article. But if you are using a plural noun, and if you are not being specific about it, some is the perfect choice. So, for the singular countable noun strawberry, for example, I can say a strawberry, and I can say the strawberry, when I am being specific about it. If I'm using the plural form of that noun, strawberries, then I can use some if I'm not specific about it. For example, I would like some strawberries, please. Or I can use the definite article. Could you pass me the strawberries? The difference between these two sentences is obvious. We are talking about a specific something, or some unique things, or about anything at all. It doesn't matter, you see? Like I've said before, we are going to focus on 3 main rules today. Learn these rules, and maybe you will choose the correct article most of the time. So, the first rule. The first rule explains when we use definite article the and when we use indefinite article a or an. The second rule deals with unique nouns, which usually require the definite article. And finally, the third rule explains why we sometimes leave articles out at all. If you do not need an article, when should we use an indefinite article and when should we use the definite article? Great question. Let's talk about the rule number 1. Indefinite article. Indefinite articles a or an are used when you first introduce the speaker to a noun. Well, it doesn't matter if you are speaking or writing. When you first introduce a countable noun, you need to use a or an, that's for sure. Then you can use the definite article there, after you have already introduced the noun, okay? I want to demonstrate this for you with a very simple story. I saw a person yesterday. The person was sitting under a tree. The tree was very tall. The person stood up when he saw a cat. The cat jumped on a wall to try and catch a bird, but the bird flew off the wall. In this example, the nouns the person, the tree, the wall, the cat and the bird all take the indefinite article first, but only when they're first introduced, you can use the definite article every time, you see. This rule is about ensuring that the reader or the listener knows which specific noun you are talking about. As soon as you have made this clear to the person, you can use the definite article every time you use it. Now we know which bird of all the possible birds in the world that it could be, we know which specific bird you are talking about. So we can use the definite article. Clear? Okay. The second rule. The second rule explains when a noun is unique, you should use the definite article the. When something is unique, it means that there is only one of that thing. So that's when we use the definite article. For example, look, the sun, the president, the Queen of England, the capital city. All these examples are the examples of this rule. There is only one of these nouns. And you know, this is especially true for the nouns that are well known by most people, but not only. It's even true when the listener even doesn't know about this noun at all. For example, look, who is he? He is the President of the United States, or he is the CEO, or he is the mayor. You see? But compare it to this. Who is she? She is a member of parliament, she is an accountant, she is an engineer. So there is more than one of these nouns. You see? That is why the noun is not unique, and you should use indefinite article a or an. Now I'm going to keep giving some more examples of the second rule. And remember, for the rule number 2, we are thinking about nouns that are unique. Okay, there is only one of these nouns, right? But this uniqueness, it doesn't need to be really obvious always. It can come through the context, for example. Look, a truck crashed into a tree. The driver was not injured. Once we introduce the car, we know by association that there could only be one driver mentioned, right? Because of the one car mentioned. So the driver is unique for this story. There's only one driver that we could possibly be talking about. Okay, so keep thinking of the idea of a unique noun, and we continue then. When you are using superlative adjectives, like this, for example, the best place, the worst thing, the fastest runner, the tallest mountain, the most interesting person I've met, you need to use the definite article the all the way, because there can be only one person, place, or thing. You see, that can be the fastest, for example, or the most expensive. Look, Paul is taller than Steve, but Tom is the tallest. Also, the definite article for named things is used. For example, by naming them, they automatically become unique, you see? For example, the Himalayas, the Amazon River, the Indian Ocean, the United Nations, the Eiffel Tower, or the 21st bus, for example, you see. All these nouns are unique, but there are some exceptions. Like the names of people, for example, we don't usually use articles. Or the names of lakes and islands. We don't usually use articles with them. Look, Madagascar Island, you see? Or Lake Victoria. Except when these nouns are plural. Look, the Great Lakes, plural noun. The Galapagos Islands, also plural. These exceptions are what makes articles very frustrating in English. But don't give up. When you are ordering things, so when ordinal numbers like second, third, fifth, etc. are used as adjectives, for example, look, the second time, the third example, the fourth person to call. So, in other words, once you place something, an order or an object, they hold a unique position in this order. And so you can use the definite article with them. Okay, lastly, why do we use an article with a noun sometimes? And at other times, we don't. That's the question. When we are speaking about a noun in general, we are not being specific about which particular noun. We usually leave the article out, and this is the third rule. And if it's countable, you need to use the plural form then, you see. So, let's use the countable noun, this pen, as an example, for example. When we are talking about an actual pen or pens that really exist in general, we use an article, definite or indefinite. In the following examples, we are speaking of specific or actual or real pens. Look, Can I borrow the pen? Well, that's a specific pen. Or the pen that is on your desk. Singular and specific. Or the pens are in your bag. That's a plural noun, right? And with the definite article should be used. But we can also make general statements about these pens. And when we do, we speak generally, and then we can leave out the article. For example, I prefer to use black pens without any article. It is left out, you see. I never have pens when I need them. The same stuff. I bought pens for you to use. The same situation. So, it is absolutely possible to use an article or to leave it out, but remember, the meaning will be different in each case. For example, I really like eating cakes. This is a general statement, you see? It could be any cake, but compare it to I really like the cake you've made. It's a statement about some specific cake, a cake that you have cooked for me, for example. You see? Well, when speaking generally about countable noun, you need to use the plural form. So, for example, I am allergic to strawberries. So, strawberries in general, not some particular strawberries. Or, Australians like to eat eggs for breakfast. Just eggs in general, not specific eggs, you see. If you are talking about something that is uncountable, like, for example, information, knowledge, equipment, then just use the noun in its original form, because obviously it doesn't have a plural form at all. So, for example, the information is available at the counter. What is it about? That's about some specific information, something that we have already discussed. Enter next example. Information is available at the counter. Without any article, you see? Okay, I know that it was the big lesson and a lot to take in, and you should probably watch it again. Just let all this information sink in, okay? Promise? We'll keep on. But before you go there, let's just go over those 3 important rules again, just to make sure you remember them. So, the first rule. The first rule explains when we use definite article there and when we use indefinite article er or an. Remember the story about the bird, the man, the cat? Remember? Good. The second rule deals with unique nouns, which usually requires the. Now, I give you a lot of different examples about how nouns can be unique and how to use them. And we also talked about how definite article there should usually be used with ordinal numbers, right? And with superlative degree as well. Okay, and the third rule, what you remember about it? The third rule explains why we sometimes leave articles out. Yes, that's when we are talking generally about them. Exactly. Now, remember that all these 3 rules are great, but they are just general ones. They work most of time, but unfortunately, there will always be some exceptions with articles, but don't lose your hope. These 3 rules are going to help you to make a better choice while using English articles, so that you can really improve your English grammar. I hope that you enjoyed this lesson, and I will see you again next week for our next lesson. So, bye for now.